Hello friends, it is Stasia and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be wrapping up the month of September. It was a very great month for me. If you missed it, I vlogged every single week for Bookoplathon. But that doesn't cover all the books I read because I just vlogged me reading my actual Bookoplathon books. But there were books that I read on the side for other things. So there will be new books here with like more thoughts and things. But before that, we're of course going to go over my book haul for the month. So first we'll go over the books that I got for myself. First is going to be my book of the month pick, and for that I chose Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is her second book in her like Women in STEM series. I don't know if it's a series. I think she just writes about women in STEM. But so I'm not exactly sure what the tropes are. I believe that our main female thinks that the main male hates her, but like he always like secretly liked her or something. Not sure. But I read the author's first book, The Love Hypothesis, absolutely loved it. So definitely needed to pick up this one. I am hoping to get to it soon. I just don't know when. And then the next book that I got was The Ballad of Never After. I actually got this book multiple times. But yeah, so this is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I read the first book last year. Wasn't my favorite, but it's fine. I have an entire vlog on that if you want to know all my thoughts. And I am planning on vlogging this one, but this picks up right where the first book left off, that left off on kind of cliffhanger. So pick this up in multiple forms. I have this one, got the one from Owl Crate, and got some from the UK because I collect Stephanie Garber. And then the last book I got for myself, which you could see in my week 4 Bookoplathon vlog when I went to go visit a new bookstore, was Priest by Sierra Simone. Not entirely sure what this book is about. I just know that it's spicy. And I believe it's about a priest who breaks the rules of like being a priest. So that's all I know. But yeah, heard great things about this book, this series, this author. So I'm looking forward to it. So that's it for the books that I got for myself. Now we'll go on to the books that I got, whether or not it was from friends, publishers, gifted in some way. So the first one I got is The Escaped Artist by Jonathan Friedland. And this is about the man who broke out of Auschwitz to warn the world. So this obviously has taken place in World War II. And that's about all I know. The next one I got was Christmas in Blue Dog Valley, which is obviously a Christmas book. I am starting to get my Christmas TBR set out to see what I want to do there. And then the next one I got is The Enigma of Room 622. This is, I believe, like a locked room sort of mystery. I think there's like maybe inspiration from like Agatha Christie. Not sure, but I heard it's super suspenseful. It is a bit of a big one, but I do want to get to it soon. And then I got The Bride Test, and this is the second book after The Kiss Quotient, which I really loved. So I am planning on reading this one soon. Then we got Faking with Benefits by Lily Gold. This is a big girl, but this is a reverse harem with 1 girl and 3 guys. I believe they're all friends, and these 3 guys are trying to help our the main girl like in her dating life. And then the next one I got was Give Me Love by Corin Michaels. Super excited for this. I believe it's a marriage of convenience, military, small town sort of vibes. I read the first book of this series. It's not like a direct series, but they all take place in the same small town, Rose Canyon. I read the first one, absolutely loved it. So I am excited to get to this one as well. And then the last book I got in September was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, and this is about, I think this is like a friends to lover, obviously football romance, and that's about all I know about this one. That is all of the books that I hauled. Now we'll go into some quick stats before we get into the actual books I read. So in the month of September, I ended up reading 23 books, and that came out to a total of 6,836 pages. Within those, I read 1 contemporary, 1 historical, 1 poetry, 16 romance, and 4 thrillers. And my formats were 14 ebooks, 8 physical books, and in between all of that there were 6 audiobooks. Some it was primarily audio, some it was like audiobook with a physical or an ebook. So that's why my numbers are always off. People have asked me like why my numbers are always so off when it comes to my formats, and that's because I count an audiobook even if I also read it physically. So like this book went on the tally of both physical and audio because I did both. But yeah, so that's why my format will never all add up to the correct amount of books, but if you cared, there's that. So that's the stats. Now let's get into the books. So as always, I'm going to go through these books in the order that I read them, unless they're on a vlog, not including my weekly vlogs. But if there's like a theme vlog for them, then I'll just bunch them up, tell you guys quick thoughts about that, and move on. With that being said, my first book was His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This was the last book of Alice Feeney that I had on her backlist, so it was super exciting to get to this. So this book follows 3 point of views: a his, a hers, and a murderer. So the his and hers, they were previously married. The main man in this story, he is like an investigator, I think, like some sort of investigator. Oh, so he's the detective chief inspector. And then the ex-wife, is a news anchor. And so they end up crossing paths again in this one case that they find they both have ties to. But there's also like a murderer point of view, but we don't know who it is. It's just like the murderer. Yeah, so I gave this book 5 stars. Super enjoyed it. It was lots of fun. The ending really just had me shook. I did not see it coming at all. I thought it was super entertaining, super easy to get into, super fast to go through, so I did end up really loving it. I just love Alice Feeney's writing and the way that she portrays her characters, and like you care about these characters even if you know they're not necessarily good. But yeah, in the end I thought I had it figured out and I didn't, so props to her. Super enjoyed it. Then the next 3 books I read at different times throughout the month, but they're all going to be in a vlog together coming at some point, so I figure I would just pop them all out. So just going to give you quick couple lines about the book and my rating, but I'm not going to give you guys any further thoughts on my rating. So the first one is The Night Swim. This follows a podcaster going to a town to have her podcast center around a case that's currently going on, but someone else is also reaching out saying that they thought there was foul play in a different case years before, but she wants to find out the answers. Gave this 5 stars. And then A Flicker in the Dark is about a girl whose father was convicted to be a serial killer of young girls, and the 20th anniversary is coming up, and they seem to think that there is a copycat in what is happening in, like, these murders are popping up again, but her father's in prison. I gave this book 4 stars. And then the last book in that vlog is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. This is about, I have no idea what this is about, but there's like multiple timelines and we're trying to see how they all connect, but the root of it is this one case. Like, this murderer, or this woman, was convicted of homicide, so she was in jail and prison for like however amount of time, but now she's getting out and people don't think she should be getting out. There's secrets, whole bunch of stuff. Gave this 3 stars. So look out for this vlog coming at some point. The next book I read was Force of Nature by Skye Warren and Amelia Wilde. I gave this book 5 stars. This is the first book in a series, but I read the novella before this, like the intro novella. So this follows exactly what happened after the novella. In the novella, our 2 main characters, June and Carter, were in a plane crash. So this just follows them. With this plane crash, they're not exactly sure like who set them up or what actually happened. So they are now trying to survive on this island and not get killed. So gave that 5 stars. Super enjoyed it. Love the characters. Love the development. This ended on a cliffhanger though, so I was very upset. So I'm very much looking forward to the next book. The next book I read is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hoggle. There's actually a bookmark here because I DNF'd it. I thought I was going to pick it up again, but I think after I film this wrap up, I'm just going to unhaul it. But I DNF'd this book at 50%. It is what it is. So this follows our two main characters, Naomi and Nicholas. So they were happy, they're engaged, but Naomi realizes that she's not really happy in this engagement. She's not really sure where things went wrong, but she doesn't want to call off the wedding and have to pay everything back. So we kind of just follow that and what stems from that. DNF'd it because I thought at 50% there should have been some growth with the characters, and there was none. I did not like Naomi. The entire situation seemed weird. It didn't seem like Nicholas wanted to have this rivalry, like he wanted to figure it out, and Naomi was just immature. So at 50%, I was like, at this point there should be some sort of development in the characters, in the relationship, but there wasn't. So this one just wasn't for me, which is fine. The next book I read was Pieces of a Life by Jewel E. Ann, and I gave this book 4 stars. So this follows our two main characters, Colton and Josie, and they were like childhood best friends. So we kind of just get like a now where they're adults, and then like the childhood where they first met and how that dynamic works. So we basically just follow them and how their relationship develops to where they are now and things like that. But there did take like a weird turn where things kind of got suspenseful, which I really enjoyed. Gave this book 4 stars. I actually super enjoyed the whole friends to lovers sort of aspect. I did feel like Josie was a bit standoffish. I kind of wish we got a little bit more of Colton, but all in all, super enjoyed it. The next book I read was 5 Dates Between Friends by Erin Thompson. I gave this book 4 stars. So this follows our two main characters, Chase and Max. So our main girl, Chase, she runs a bar with her best friend, Mac. They've been friends for ages, so much so that they opened this bar together. They've always been friends, but one night sparks sort of fly. They have a kiss, and neither of them can really forget about it or move on from it, but Chase is very adamant in the fact that she does not want to ruin their friendship, so she doesn't want to pursue it with them. But Mac is just like, I think we have a great dynamic. All right, hello. Hopefully the lighting change is not too bad, but my camera died and now we're back like an hour or so later. So before I was cut off, I was talking about 5 dates between friends. And yeah, so let's get back into that. I think I finished the synopsis. So with the premise of our main character Chase wanting to not get into this situation, it did seem to get repetitive with her saying like, no, I don't want to do this, but Mac being just like, hey, like let's just give it a try. So it got repetitive there, and that's why I gave it 4 stars. But overall, I did really love their connection, and when they were together, you could see that the banter was there, the fun was there. They did have that connection with each other, which was really nice. So ended up giving that book 4 stars. Then I read Cracks in the Ice by Ryan Taylor and Joshua Hardwood, and this is an age gap hockey sort of romance between Benny and Cole. So Benny is like a hockey player, but he is kind of like recovering from an injury, so he ends up going to a college or like a university, and he's like helping their hockey team. But while he's there, he's staying in a house that his old friend lives at, but she's out of town, and she does have a roommate, which is Cole, and he's a student at this school, like a music major. So basically this follows Benny and Cole and them discovering the relationship, seeing if anything is there. I gave this book 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. I felt like these characters were so mature. They had such great communication. It was such a great way to explore as well, because one of our characters weren't fully, this is male by the way, but one of our characters weren't fully sure if, you know, they wanted to be with a man. They've never been with another man before, so they were kind of exploring that and seeing how that worked without it being a big deal. Like, it was great. And like I said, both of the characters were mature, and although there was like some arguments and things like that, like things they needed to overcome, they did it in such a great and communicative way. It was just so nice for there to not be like unnecessary drama, because these characters talk to each other. and it was great. Then I read Two for the Show by Sky Warren. This is book 2. The first one is One for the Money. So I can't talk too much about this one. This one just picks up where book 1 left off. So I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved being back with Finn and Ava. Obviously book 2 had its problems they needed to overcome, but I did love the growth in our characters and how they got from the beginning to the end where they ended up. But this also ended on a cliffhanger, so I'm waiting until January, I believe, is when the next book comes out. So just waiting for that to see how the trilogy wraps up. But all in all, like I said, 5 stars, really enjoyed it. Then I read Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book after It Happened One Summer, and this book follows Fox and Hannah. This is a friends to lovers situation. So after Hannah goes back to LA after book 1 happens, she finds herself and her job going back to this fishing town. For certain situations, she can't stay at her sister's house, so she ends up staying at Fox's house because since Hannah left, they've been texting constantly, so they're basically like friends, so they didn't see a big deal with it, but obviously feelings there, one thing led to another. It was a great time. I give this 5 stars, although I did like It Happened One Summer a little bit more. I still gave this one 5 stars. I loved the banter between Hannah and Fox. There was lots of tension that they were trying to ignore, and it was just like a will they won't they type of situation. Super enjoyed it. One thing I wish author kept up with is in the beginning, there's like quite a few pages of them texting like before they were in the same city and like town together again, and I wish that that was somehow kept into the story. Like, even though they were in the same house, I wish we still got their bantery text, because that was honestly just so fun to read. It was honestly the perfect way to start off this book. But yeah, Fox had such a sad story that I didn't see coming, and overall super enjoyed it. The next book I read was Give Me a Reason by A.L. Jackson. I read this book for the Book Boyfriends Are Better book club. Really enjoyed this one. This follows our 2 main characters, Trent and Eden. So Trent is a single dad, and one day he ends up hiring Eden at his club, but then the next day he goes to pick up his son from school and realizes that Eden is also his son's kindergarten teacher. So from the get-go, there was like that lust there was that attraction that they were trying to fight off. So I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but this book did also get a little bit repetitive with like Eden and Trent trying to like fight what was happening just to circle back and do it again. So there's like the repetitive argument. This also did have like a bit of suspense. Trent does have like some enemies, so he got into like some trouble. So then we needed to see like how that all figured out and stuff. But overall, I did really enjoy it. It was just like a little bit repetitive. I wish that we got a little bit more of Trent's son, Gage. He was absolutely hilarious. But Trent also does have brothers who the other 2-3 books follow his brothers. So I am looking forward to continuing with the series. But Trent and Eden were great. They had a great chemistry. They had a great connection. I just wish that they didn't go around in the same circle so many times, and that we got a little bit more of Gage. But all in all, 4.5 stars isn't bad at all. Then I read The Switch by Beth O'Leary, and I gave this book 4 stars. So this book follows 2 different people, a grandmother and a granddaughter. So the grandmother, Eileen, and her granddaughter Lena end up switching locations. So Lena is kind of stuck in her head. She has a lot going on in her life. So her job is like, hey, we really value you, so we kind of want you to take a little 2-month break, do what you need to do, come back to work so you can focus again. And she is a workaholic, so she didn't want to do it at first, but she was like, okay, fine, like I really have no choice. So she ends up going to visit her grandmother in like the countryside, and when she gets there, Eileen, her grandmother, is like, she's like, yeah, I've always wanted to live in the big city because Lena lives in London. So they make this plan where they both get out of their comfort zones, and Lena stays in the countryside, small town, and takes over all of the tasks that her grandmother does day to day. And Eileen goes to London and figures out if she likes the big city. She tries to do a little dating, getting back out there, that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I said, gave it 4 stars, super enjoyed it. I just thought that this was going to be a little bit more heavier on the romance, which it wasn't too heavy on that, so I kind of just wanted a little bit more romance. But I honestly thought this story was great. It's like a slice of life. Both Eileen and Lena go through things in like their new life where they're in a different location, and it was very fun to see. Eileen was honestly hilarious. I loved reading her point of view, and Lena was kind of the opposite. She's very like type A. She wants things a certain way, but she doesn't exactly know all the things that her grandmother does in this small town that she lives in. So it was very entertaining to watch them both. Really enjoyed it, and yes. Then I read Goal Chaser by Stacy Lynn. This is a hockey romance between Kane and Emerson. So Kane is a hockey player and Emerson is his sister's best friend. So when Emerson gets into a bit of trouble, she goes to stay with Kane for a little bit. And then she's in a situation where her and Kane get married. There's like a whole marriage of convenience sort of thing, but Kane also has an ex-wife who he doesn't think he's over yet. So he's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me that we're gonna get married because I can't love you, that sort of thing. So I give this book 5 stars. I really loved Kane and Emerson. Kane is definitely like that tortured hero, where he has so much guilt and he still loves his ex-wife. But Emerson is kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like, he didn't know that he could feel this way about someone. Emerson obviously has a hard past. She kind of just gets thrown on Kane's doorstep and needs to figure out her next steps while also fighting this mutual attraction for each other. Overall, super enjoyed it. I loved the marriage of convenience. I also loved the like forced proximity because they were like living together, so they were just like, they couldn't escape each other, which I really enjoyed that. Then I read Hating the Player by Rebecca Genshak. This follows our 2 main characters, Gavin and Violet. Gavin is a big shot like basketball player and Violet is like a fashion major. They go to the same college. So a few months ago, before like the book starts, they had like a fling for a few weeks, and then they had like a really dramatic falling out. So in this book, Gavin is trying to fix that, but Violet doesn't know if she can trust him again. But they keep finding themselves in situations where they keep like helping each other out and trying to figure out like, maybe we don't actually hate each other, maybe we could give this a second go, that sort of thing. So I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved Gavin. The way that he was just so focused on Violet and wanted to make this work any way, shape, or form was just so great. I also loved Violet because she wasn't just like, yes, you're hot, we had this like connection, so I'm gonna jump right into you. She was very smart about it. She was like, I don't know if I want to put my heart back on the line, so she really thought it through. But it was just such a sweet story between them. You could definitely see their chemistry, and it was just so heartwarming. Gavin had more to him than you would have thought, and Violet really helped him through a lot of stuff, so it was super enjoyable. This was my first basketball romance. That was a fun time. But yeah, in the end, I love them both. They both deserve everything, and I just loved reading about their story. Then I read Scoring Off the Ice by Stacy Lynn. This is another hockey romance. This follows Micah and Paisley. They are neighbors. They've seen each other in passing, always thought each other was attractive, but they never spoke or anything until one day a baby is left outside of Micah's door with a note saying that that is his son. So Micah doesn't really like notice it at first, like he's in the shower or something, but then Paisley hears the baby crying, so she goes outside and she sees the baby. So she's obviously trying to knock on the door, get Micah's attention so that Micah can, you know, get this baby. But Micah has no experience with children, and Paisley does. So he ends up asking her like, hey, could you like help me out a little bit, show me like a little bit of the ropes and stuff like that. And so from then on, it was just like a whirlwind because Paisley realized that there was so much more to Micah than she thought, and they just really got to know each other. And there was also baby Angelo, which was super fun. I gave this book 4 stars. It was very fun to see Micah come into that role of a single dad and Paisley being there to help him out. Them getting to know each other very slowly. Paisley at first was very like skeptical, like she didn't really want to start anything, but then obviously one thing leads to another, and then it happens. The only thing is the like 3rd act conflict I didn't think was necessary. The like point of that, I understand why it was done, but I felt like it was such a fleeting conflict and there wasn't enough meat to that story to make it super relevant. So to me, it kind of just made it like a waste of conflict. Like it didn't need to be there in my opinion. So that was like one of the main things that I didn't really like, but I did like both of the characters and the side characters of the hockey team and stuff. That was also super fun. Then I read Final Shot by Stacey Lynn, and this is actually a novella. So this is like the very first book in the series, and it was like less than 100 pages. But this just introduces us to the characters for book 1, and I thought it was super fun. It follows Garrett and Lizzie, who used to be best friends, and then something happens and they weren't friends anymore until they are forced to be near each other in a plane ride and a hotel while they're visiting their mutual friend. I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was a solid start. I did find both Lizzie and Garrett, like they both had very valid reasons to their feelings. You could see where the misunderstanding came in. But yeah, I thought it was great, and I haven't read it yet, but I am looking forward to seeing how their story actually unfolds in book 1. But there really isn't much to say about this book because it's like 80 pages. But I did enjoy it. I like the characters and I can't wait to see them again. Alright guys, we're almost done. We only have 5 books left, so we can do it. So the next book I read was Fighter's Heart by A. Rivers. This is an MMA romance between Jace and Lena. So Jace is an MMA fighter, but he finds himself in a bit of a bind with like social media. Like he has a bad rep, something just happened, and they need to turn that around before his like biggest fight. He and his agent hire Lena, who is like a PR representative. I don't actually know, like, but she's in like PR, so she is hired to make him look better. But from the get-go, they very much misunderstand each other and make these assumptions about each other and think that they have them figured out. But as the story progresses, they obviously figure out like, oh, there's more to you than I thought. One thing leads to another, a whole bunch of stuff. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I felt like Jace and Lena were just so much fun. Like their banter, the snarkiness between them was so fun because they automatically thought that they didn't like each other. So it was just so fun to see them like transform that into an actual connection. And they were just so comfortable with each other. It was just so easy to have conversations. It was just a fun time. Jace is very like cocky, confident, so he's always just making these comments, and Lena's kind of just rolling her eyes. She's very much focused on her career, and honestly just wants to like help, but Jace kind of makes it a little hard. So it was very fun watching them together. It was very fun seeing their relationship develop. Obviously there was a lot of drama, but none of the drama seemed out of place. Like it all made sense as to like where the 3rd act breakup came in. All of those conflicts, like it all made sense in the end. So super enjoyed that one. Then I read A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, and this is a historical romance that follows our main character Viola. She was presumed dead after the war, and her best friend Justin, or they mainly call him Gracewood because I guess that's like his kingdom name, so she had to leave him behind so she could transform into her true self after the war and everything. But Gracewood kind of finds himself in a situation where Viola goes to his castle after all these years and kind of tries to see like what's going on with him, if she can help in any way, things like that. So she tries to bring him back after like the war and tell him like everything's okay, get him back into himself and make him better. But obviously feelings arise and one thing leads to another, and it's a great time. So I I give this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. First off, this was historical romance with trans rep, which I've never read before, so that was honestly super fun. I loved Viola and I loved Gracewood. Their banter was just so fun. You could see that they had history based on their connection, and you could see how much they respected each other, how much their friendship meant to each other, while also simultaneously figuring out that there's a new connection between Viola and Gracewood. From the beginning, you kind of know that there's going to be a messy situation just because Viola is keeping this secret, trying to bridge the gap between who Gracewood lost and who Viola is now. So we knew things were going to get messy. There were secrets, but I thought it was really well done. I will admit that I do think that the characters were in their head a lot, so it kind of made the story drag a little bit for me, but it was still like such a fun read. It was such great representation. Overall, super enjoyed it. Next, I read The Player by Claire Contreras. This is a soccer star romance. So this soccer star, Warren, ends up going to New York and meets Camilla, who's very much just like a normal girl. She just lives there, but she doesn't pay attention to soccer, so she doesn't even know who he is. But he has his sights set on her and basically works to get her. But they soon realize that they do come from different worlds and trying to figure out how they could possibly work that out. So I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Everything got messy towards the end, which is understandable based on like all the secrets that were kept from each other. So super enjoyed it. I loved their connection. I loved her not knowing who he was, but obviously, like I said, it did get messy once he needed to get back to his real life, because when they first met, he was kind of on like a 2-week vacation. So they realized that their lives were very different and needed to figure out how they could come together and be together if they wanted to be. And then the next book I read was Memories. This is a poetry collection. I actually ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, mainly because I didn't realize that a lot of these poems were from her other 2 books that I've already read, so it got repetitive. There's not really much to say about this one. And then at the time that I'm filming this, I'm like nearly done, but I'm currently reading Because I Want You by Claire Contreras, and this is a mafia romance. You can follow my Goodreads if you want to know like my final thoughts on that, because I'm nearly done with that. So that is it. This is a very long video and I super apologize. This is my most amount of books I've read in a month, so yes, so that is it from me today. So sorry for the long video. You can like, comment, and subscribe down below if you'd like. All of my socials are in the description as always. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!